Morning guys, Wednesday the 29th of July. Quite a still morning. Just right actually, not much of a breeze and not too warm but not too cold either. So I'm thinking about yesterday. There's a point where I was supposed to have a meeting with somebody. It's already been extended and rearranged, and I was giving them some feedback on a video with some of their way of presenting, and vice versa to me, and I was delivering a course for most of the day, so I was on quite a tight, sort of timeline, and I'd knowing all of that, I'd still tried to fit in watching part of the video that they'd presented. So I came off the delivery and literally was just about to go on this Zoom meeting, and I picked up a message only about an hour before saying could they rearrange, and I know them relatively well, and I was a little bit, if I'm honest, I was a bit annoyed that they didn't really give a specific reason as such, and I suppose knowing that I was on a tight deadline for other stuff and I'd still tried to fit it in, I was a bit sort of annoyed and frustrated, knowing, well, that will have another impact. We have to try and rearrange for another time. So I feel that I've got a good enough relationship with them to be that bit more honest. So I actually, when I did it, just email them back, I did just say that I was a bit, I can't remember if I used the words frustrated or disappointed, because with my delivery as well, I had still put the time in to watch their video to be able to give them this feedback, but then sent them another potential time when we could rearrange. Anyway, they came back to me fairly quickly actually and said, I'm really sorry, actually, can we have the meeting about so half an hour or so later. And so we did have the meeting, and I was sort of explaining about the context of why I felt a bit frustrated about that, and they said that they actually respected me being honest, and that they do have respect for me being assertive about how I was sort of feeling, and that sort of did actually give them where they were sort of talking about it, give them a bit of that push, if you like, that push to go, actually, do you know what, no, we do need to do this, because I think they were perhaps just feeling a little bit flat, a little bit, I've got to muster up the energy, and struggling a little bit. So, and then we talked one point about accountability as well, and how we can all we can say things in our own mind about what we want or what we don't want, or justify in our own mind reasons why we do or don't do certain things, but it's still, I think, really vital that sort of move things forward and make things happen in a real productive way, that we also hold each other accountable for the things that we've agreed to and we say that we're going to do. Obviously, if you've got a good enough relationship with somebody, don't get me wrong, if there's something crops up that's obviously means it has to be moved or adjusted, then yeah, it's also important to have a level of flexibility. But yeah, I think my point is as well is my gut feeling was I sort of knew the lack of specific reason gave me just a sense that, you know, this was and it was so late in the day when they'd sent the message. So I think my gut feeling actually was I really felt this was more of a, you know, I'm just not quite up for it, don't quite have, you know, the energy, that sort of element can be rearranged. So yeah, I suppose it's it's I tell you what struck me then. I think it is a mixture of, you know, acknowledging that somebody, you know, has got something else that's going on for them, or that they're feeling in a particular way. So it's not stepping over and dismissing that, and then at the same time still being able to say what you feel and think about something. So it's being assertive and not negating your own feelings or emotions at the same time, which I think is really fundamentally important. I think the other thing as well was that as I was being more honest with them and they sort of respect me, that when we were then talking, and particularly just talking a little bit about you know, how they were currently feeling with the, you know, the impact of the lockdown and so forth. I think it then opened up a more honest dialogue, a more honest conversation. So they were then also sharing that bit more about how they were feeling and the impact for them, really. So I got to understand, I suppose, a little bit about how they're currently feeling, where they're coming from, which was also important because that then connects you and another person in a more clear way, rather than making up in our own minds you know, what we think about why somebody's done X, Y and Z, why they've said they've rearranged a meeting appointment or whatever. Oh well. There was another example where when I was doing the delivery of the course, I had somebody attended in the morning, and then we have a morning and a break, and then a longer afternoon session. And they hadn't showed up for the afternoon session. I had no message to say why they weren't going to be there. So I'd emailed them, and they did then come back to me and said they weren't feeling that well, and they'd also rung into their work, and so again I replied to them by acknowledging that I'd heard what they'd said about they weren't able to attend the afternoon session because they then weren't feeling very well. And at the same time, I'm aware that there's a deadline for an assignment to do with the work, and they hadn't given me any example of their work the week before either. So that can leave it whereby you don't quite know if they're on track or if they've even really give it time, which means they're going to be leaving it quite late in the day, potentially overwhelmed when they've got to give their assignments in. So as I said, I replied back to their email and acknowledged that they were saying they weren't feeling very well. And then I did also say, as they know and they're already aware, we have this deadline, and I want to be able to be in a position of giving them the right support they need. So could they give me a date of when they might be able to give me back at least some draft or bullet points on one of the parts of the assignment. And the reason why I'm saying that is because it's understanding and acknowledging that somebody is not feeling well, but then not allowing that to colour the fact that something else still is needs to be actioned. If I just ignore that or they don't come back to me about that, well then it's like we're ignoring something else that is actually quite important. And that might be, I'm making this up a bit now by the way, but my sense is that might be part of the the not coming to that session, or the avoidance with giving any draft info in. Now, at the end of the day, ultimately they're responsible for themselves, so I can support as much as I can. I can offer that support, but it's quite clear ultimately I can't do that work for them. And so I think it's acknowledging where somebody's at, then also being honest about the accountability that's still needed, asking them what support they need, and if I'm giving them some decision making skill around coming back with a deadline rather than me imposing another one, rather than feeling empowered to make that for themselves. And then there's a point where, this goes for anything, then there's a point where it's okay, so I've done as much as I can do. Now it is also down to the other person as well. And I think that's different for every person, but I think there's a skill, there's an art, there's a fine balance within that process. Don't necessarily get it right every time, but I think by using skills such as acknowledgement, accountability, empowerment for somebody else to make their own decisions, and new deadlines and so on, I think those things can help and contribute towards that process. So guys, have a wonderful, wacky, wowsy, willowy Wednesday, and I shall speak to you later. Take care, bye.